As we prepare for our beloved Honda CRF 300L to shuffle off this mortal coil, I must take this time to wax poetic about the way in which this delightful little 286cc dual sport motorcycle touched the hearts and minds of thousands of fast boys across the world. Never before has a beginner bike provoked feelings of such extraordinary jovial whimsy, both on and off-road. For the low sticker price of $5,349, you can have an incredibly approachable, capable, and downright fun motorcycle that is capable of commuting around town or ripping up some fire roads or trails. This new entry into Honda's dual sport lineup is relatively uncontested in the class sans the KLX 300 from Kawasaki, a comparison we will look at more closely later on. The CRF 300L is a worthy contender to this Fartpillen 401, which currently holds our spot as the best beginner bike option for new motorcyclists, and in a world where the WR250R is discontinued, the Honda's kind of sitting atop the heap. What the CRF lacks in cool modern aesthetics of the Fartpillen, it more than makes up for its greater off-road capabilities and proven reliability. I mean, it is a Honda after all. Okay, let's take a look at this motorcycle a little more closely. For a dual sport, it is surprisingly sharp looking. I think we've finally entered the era where not every dual sport motorcycle looks like a mangled Transformers action figure from the 90s, and I'm here for it. It has clean lines and sharp contrast in the red, blue, and white colorway, and refined details like the black wheels and inverted forks. It sports a 286cc single thumper, the same engine you will find in the CBR 300R, making 27 horsepower and 20 foot-pounds of torgos. You might be saying those are rookie numbers, we gotta pump those numbers up, but with the CRF coming in at just 309 pounds, it makes adequate power to move you down the road or trail without being too encumbered by its own weight. In fact, it loves to do little first gear wheelies. This bike is liquid cooled and fuel injected, meaning you aren't gonna have any issues getting up and going in colder weather. Due to the street-oriented nature of the engine, you also have the luxury of longer service intervals compared to more dedicated dirt bikes. The gearing has also been updated on the CRF 300L compared to the gearbox on the 250L, which reigned as Honda's entry-level dual sport motorcycle until 2021. 300 now sports shorter gearing in gears 1 through 5 for better acceleration, with a 6-gear overdrive for smooth high-speed cruising. It's no turbo boost, but you can cruise at 65 or 70 without too much discomfort, and while capable of slightly higher speeds, you're not going to be having much fun buzzing your way down the interstate at 8,000 RPM. Both front and rear suspension have a little over 10 inches of travel with a preload adjustable rear Showa monoshock and a non-adjustable 43mm Showa inverted front fork. The CRF has a 21-inch front wheel and an 18-inch rear wheel, which is perfect for spooning on whatever dirt or trail tire you want, and it'll roll over stuff really nice. Our CRF does not have ABS, and while that is an option available from Honda for an additional $300 cost from the dealer, we don't really think you need it. Tech is pretty limited on the bike, with a simplistic LCD display showing your speed, tachometer, and a few convenient extras like gear position indicator and fuel level. This bike has a petite 2-gallon gas tank, but while getting nearly 65 miles to the gallon, that shouldn't be much of a problem of range. Now that we're done with specs, here's a quick word from our sponsor.
Hey, whoa, dude, what are you doing
What's
here,
up, man? No, I'm mounting up my phone to the bike.
Wait, no, why? Dude, there's a better way to do this. You don't have to live this life.
Really?
No. Thanks, Rockform's got you covered, man.
Has this ever happened to you? You see, you don't need to use archaic technology like tape or zip ties if you want to check maps or change your music while you ride. Not only can you get a rock-solid mount for your bike, your car, your bathtub, etc., but you're also going to get the next level in cell phone safety systems. Rockform's low-profile case has been drop-tested from 6 feet and will keep your phone safe without turning it into a massive plastic brick in your pocket. It doesn't stop there, though. Rockform has sport rings, wireless chargers, and more. Click the link down below and use the code YN25 for 25% off your order.
Okay, now that the spec sheet warriors are satisfied, let's talk about how it feels to ride the CRF 300L. You know, the ethereal themes and sensations that this bike elicits that just cannot be quantified numerically. It is jubilant, exuberant, and vivacious. There is something about riding a dual sport that just induces feelings of childlike wonder. In an upright riding position, hands right out in front of you on the handlebars and feet directly beneath you on the pegs, it feels like you're riding a bicycle while you jump curbs and pop baby wheelies, except it has an engine and you don't have a curfew now. Seriously, this thing elicits so much childlike sense of fun. I love riding it. This bike has an amenable 34-inch seat height, which is, while it's taller than many beginner street bikes, 34 inches is actually quite accessible for an off-road capable machine with over 10 inches of ground clearance. And you gotta remember too, when you sit on that bike, it's gonna squat quite a bit as well, making it pretty easy to flat foot this thing. Like I stated previously, the rider triangle has you in an upright position where you're able to stand on the pegs very easily and move the bike side to side when the situation calls for it. While riding on the road, the suspension is adequate and able to absorb bumps and potholes on the road better than a dedicated street motorcycle would. The narrow stature and low curb weight leaves the bike playful and flickable. Now I know what you're thinking. Is it fast? An appropriate colloquialism is how people would say it's more fun to ride a slow bike fast than a fast bike slow. And while the CRF isn't particularly slow, it is no speed demon. It could be said that this motorcycle is perfectly powerful for the type of bike that it is and the style of riding it's designed for. Power smooth and linear, accelerating and shifting is easy thanks to an ultra-light clutch pull. It is a approachable, versatile, entry-level bike that makes enough power to put a smile on your face and when you flip the throttle open. This style of dual sport motorcycle has sort of the Grom factor, where it is relaxed and low risk enough for you to be able to let loose and goof around a bit without pushing yourself or putting others in risk or too much danger. The accessibility and rudimentary tech is likely a good entry point to motorcycling, where new riders are able to learn the relationship between clutch, throttle, and braking, both on and off pavement, without relying on too many technological fail-safes like rider modes or traction control, quick shifters, and all the other fun stuff you get later on your journey. Taking this bike off-road is where you'll start to notice certain aspects where it leaves a little bit to be desired if you are familiar with riding off-road. While not incapable of tractoring over some gravel or light trails or single track, it is not always the most confidence-inspiring on the most aggressive terrain. The lack of adjustability in the suspension leaves a sort of a pogo stick effect in the rear shock as you bounce up and down over rocks while trying to hold your line. We tried to fix this with a combination of tire pressure and preload adjustments, but ultimately it seems like it's just going to need a more sophisticated rear shock. For the beginner rider or a seasoned rider who is new to dirt, these peculiarities may not be as noticeable as they are to someone who has more experience riding higher-end dedicated dirt bikes on similar aggressive terrain. While far from a deal breaker, it is definitely worth noting the shortcomings in the suspension. The reality is that this is one of the sacrifices you have to expect when purchasing a bike at such an accessible price point. Like I mentioned before, the CRF 300L is pretty uncontested in its class as an affordable, modern, entry-level dual sport motorcycle. A comparison could be made to the Suzuki DRZ 400 with its 398cc thumper making 39 horsepower and 26 foot-pounds of torgos, but that extra power doesn't come without a few caveats. The DRZ comes in at 320 pounds, making it a bit heavier than the CRF. Not only are the outdated aesthetics of the DRZ kind of ugly, but it's also still rocking a carburetor from the factory and is limited to a 5-speed gearbox. Bearing that in mind, it still retails for nearly $7,000 from a dealership, which is more than $1,500 in the CRF. With that extra cash, you can make some modifications to the CRF and have a solid dual sport. There's also the WR250R from Yamaha, which was a very worthy contender before being discontinued by Team Blue, which I still think is the craziest thing and a damn shame. Yamaha, please make a WR350R. You will literally just poop all over everybody if you do that. The WR makes a slightly higher peak power numbers at 30 horsepower compared to the 27 on the CRF, and it is a little bit lighter too. Bearing in mind that due to the smaller displacement engine, this figure comes in a much higher rev range, and it could be argued that the CRF power band is a touch more usable while out on the road. The WR also has a significantly taller seat height and increased ground clearance, which could be a pro or a con depending on the needs of the rider. You may still be able to find a WR on the used market, but if you're looking for a factory-fresh beginner dual sport from the dealer, the WR may not be available for you. The last and most worthy contender of the CRF 300L is the KLX 300 from Kawasaki. Sharing a similar blueprint, the KLX has a 292cc engine making 33 horsepower and 21 foot-pounds of torque dynamos, and it comes in at $5,599. While those numbers are slightly higher than the CRF, the easy clutch pull and smooth gearbox of the CRF makes it a more pleasurable riding experience, especially on pavement. The KLX only seems to outshine the CRF when both are taken off-road with its slightly lower curb weight and better performing suspension. Both are worthy engines in the class depending on where you intend to spend most of your time riding. Since we're comparing motorcycles to the CRF 300L, it is worth mentioning that this bike also comes in a rally trim that is more catered towards touring and adventure riding. It features a significantly larger 3.5-gallon gas tank, a windscreen, handguards, a skid plate, and a slightly larger 396mm front disc brake to accommodate the extra weight from the touring outfit. With the ADV riding becoming increasingly popular, it is cool to see Honda offering a pseudo-adventure package on an entry-level dual sport bike such as the CRF 300L. The rally trim will demand a slightly higher ticket price of $6,099. In closing, the Honda CRF 300L is an incredibly fun and welcoming motorcycle that new and seasoned riders alike can both appreciate. It is simple, approachable, and unpretentious while offering riders a completely new perspective on the sport of motorcycling. With a sticker price of only $5,349, the CRF is a great entry point for new riders looking to get their feet wet with both on-road and off-road riding. With a few drawbacks aside from the less than perfect off-road suspension setup and the dumb brake line that lives comfortably in front of the speedometer, seriously Honda, what the hell? It may be a contender to dethrone the Svartpilen 401 from its top spot as our declared Sigma beginner bike. The CRF 300L is a seriously fun time. I've had a ton of fun riding this motorcycle around here in the shop. I really think that if you're a beginner rider looking for something to grow your skill sets on and off-road, you will not find a motorcycle that is better suited than the CRF 300L. I think it's a fantastic choice for your first motorcycle, and it is a lot more fun than something like a Ninja 400. Fact: Nutella was invented during World War II when an Italian pastry maker mixed hazelnuts into chocolate to extend his chocolate ration. Goodbye.